Welcome! Hey, it's the Genesee County Compassion Club show. How's everybody doing today? I'm your host, Jeremy, from the Genesee County Compassion Club, and I'm coming to you live from allpointstv.com. Proud studio right down here in Flint, making it happen. I got John behind the cam. What's going on, John?
Doing real well.
I know the cam to you is that way, but to me, he's that way. But here, back in the studios, going to talk about medical marijuana, going to talk about cannabis in general, and we're going to let you know what's happening down at the Genesee County Compassion Club. First of all, today's the 6th, if I'm not mistaken, still the 6th of July. It's hot. We're in the middle of summer, and I hope everybody had a good, fun, safe 4th of July. It was an awesome weekend. Good time to spend with family. I hope you were able to get out there and do so. And I hope you are enjoying your summer. I know most of us here in Michigan are hoping for rain. And just not today. All right, just not today. We've got the G3C softball team playing in the playoffs tonight. And we need to have clear skies to get the game on. So the G3C hitters, if you guys have missed out, we had a little club team going on, and they've got a pretty even season so far this year. Be playing in the playoffs this evening, and we'll see how they do. So, of course, we wish them the best of luck. The G3C hitters, go team! All right, but other than that, man, it's a gorgeous summer. And we're looking, like I said, we're all hoping for rain. I know that. But I want to get you informed as to what's been happening down at the club, what we got going on. We've got some events coming up here. And if you got a chance, get on down to the Genesee County Compassion Club. It's the place to be at. We've got our 7/10 party coming up. We're going to be celebrating it on 7/11. All right, I know that's a little confusing, but we're not open on Sundays, and 7/10 is a Sunday. So we will be throwing down in celebration of 7/10 on Monday, 7/11. So if you're a club member, or if you're a medical marijuana patient or caregiver, get down to the G3C on Monday. We're having a special event. It's free. It's part of your membership. And it's going to be awesome. We're going to have door prizes. We're going to have a dunk tank. We're going to have the hot dog guy out there serving up like 7 different ways of hot dogs. They're all absolutely delicious. And a few other fun events and prizes and stuff like that. So get on down. I know I saw Patrick setting up the photo booth today, so we'll have that going. You can make a memory and have something to take home with you. But it's just fun in general. It's good to get out. It's good to hang out with your peers. It's good to talk to other patients, find out what's working for them, see if you can, institute that into your regimen. And, this whole thing is about concentrates. It's being able to find out different ways to get your medication, different ways to medicate other than just your traditional smoking forms. And, that's really important for those of us that are health conscious. I know a lot of folks think that, you do medical marijuana, so you're probably just a regular stoner, don't care about your health or anything else, right? And, for those of us that use cannabis, we know that that's pretty much 100% wrong. Most of our members, most of the people out there that are in Michigan's medical marijuana program are pretty progressive when it comes to dealing with their own health, and they take it very seriously. And, this is something that we look at, like I said, we take like this under a fine-tooth comb because taking our health into our own hands. And that's a wonderful thing when you take responsibility for your own health. This is a way to do that. And in order to do so, you got to find out what's going to work for you. So 7/10 is a good thing to check out because you can find out all the different ways that cannabis can be processed and how it can be used to benefit your health. And it's good to have these other options available. Now, a lot of folks get nervous about the Michigan medical marijuana law because there's been a few court cases that have sort of muddied up the water, and so people are wondering, are edible forms possible? Can you have these? Absolutely. The trick of it is that it does have to have plant matter in it, and since you're making these things from plants, that shouldn't be too difficult to do. So just keep that in mind, and it's good to remember to obey the law too. Of course, we want to make sure we're compliant, but it's important that patients get medication in the form that they need. And for those of you that aren't aware, when you ingest cannabis, it actually works much more powerfully, much longer, and has a better overall effect on your body. That's a beautiful thing. So something to think about. But anyways, come on down to the party. It's going to be happening from 12 to 5 on Monday. Like I said, we're going to have door prizes, dunk tank, hot dog guy, some other fun stuff, photo booth, all that. And it's going to be a blast. So mark it on your calendars. Be there. No additional charge for attending the party, which is awesome. All right, coming up right after that following weekend, we've got our Adopt a Highway. We'll be cleaning up M13, that section of road out there between Shiawassee and Genesee County. and we clean both sides of the road because we care, all right? You know, we don't just, oh, that's Shiawassee County, screw that. No, we do the whole thing. So we need your help. Members, please show up if you can. Saturday morning down at the club. Get there, get square, we'll get your bags, we'll get your safety video on, do the sign-up sheet. You can sign up now if you'd like to ahead of time, or just sign up on the day that you're there. This is something we've been doing now for like 7 years, I think. And this is the second time we'll be cleaning the highway this year, so it really shouldn't be too bad. I know obviously it's hot out. People don't want to be outside on the side of the road if they don't have to. So promise to go quickly and get it over with so it's, you know, as painless as possible. We go out first thing in the morning and rock it out. And we're usually done by noon, so it doesn't take up your whole Saturday. You don't have to worry about, you know, being gone and making other arrangements. You can just bust it out and then get back on to what you do. But if you could help us, we greatly appreciate it. It's a good thing to be able to help out the community, represent what Michigan patients and caregivers are all about, which is making this a better place, making it better for us as well. So Adopt a Highway, please check it out. Sign-up sheets should be at the bar, or you can just check it out on our website, g3c.com. Genesee3c.com, excuse me. All right, check it out on Facebook too. Next event, I want to make mention, it's not like a club sanctioned event, but it certainly includes our club members, and our club members are doing it. So I want to give a shout out about it because I think it's awesome. This is a river run. They're floating down the river up at the Rifle River Range, which is, you know, if you're in Michigan, it's over here. It's not too far away, and it looks like it's going to be awesome. There's a sign-up sheet at booth 21. Talk to George. He'll hook you up, and you can float down the river and have a blast with your fellow members. So if you guys are into floating on tubes down the river, it's something to check out. It should be a lot of fun. Next event I want to mention this week, I know this is upcoming in the future, looking like middle of August, but for you golfers out there, we're doing a charity golf event. This is our second annual ROAR event, and it's ROAR because this is the ROAR program through Hurley Medical, and it provides books to kids that get up to the hospital that don't have those types of resources, and it gets those books in their hands so they can, you know, start reading, start getting, you know, the habit of, you know, reading, which is, you know, kids don't read anymore nowadays. And, you know, books, you think, us that are older, we take it for granted. Of course you have books, but they really don't. Nowadays, books are expensive, and kids don't go to the library every week like they used to. So it's good to get that stuff in their hands. This program helps them do that. We provide funds to Hurley, and Hurley turns back around and uses those funds to benefit those kids through their reading program, and that's what we're doing. So the golf event is going down in August. I believe it's a scramble. Get all the details at the club. There's a sign-up sheet there. It's going to include a steak dinner, hot dog at the turn. It's a full-on golf outing. And for you golfers out there, you probably know more about it than I do already. But it's a fun event. I know last year I went, took a few swings, been a club. It was all good. And I'll be there again this year. So I hope to see you guys there. Hope to see you sign up. If you're, you know, one of those serious golfers, you can get your own team together. And if you're a solo golfer like myself, I don't even know if I'd call myself an actual golfer. But if you're going solo, there'll be no problem matching you up with the team so you can participate. So everybody's welcome. You know, whether it's your first time out on the course or you're a seasoned pro, we all want you to be there. This is about supporting the kids. So that's what's important. But I want to throw that out there, make sure I mention it, because like I said, it's coming up in August, and I know some of you guys are real serious. You got a book, you know, slide it in between one of your other golf tournaments. If that's you, you know, make sure you mark your calendar. All right. I got some news I want to share with you guys this week. There's some stuff actually going down on a national level. I know a lot of folks are watching the news constantly to see what's happening with marijuana around the country, and there has been some interesting recent developments. A lot right now is not happening in Michigan. Our legislature is still working on their bills. They're passing them around, getting back from summer break, you know, doing that kind of thing. They are saying in Michigan that there's going to be some laws proposed that will change our medical marijuana program, and we could look to see that happening sometime in the fall. Now, if they do in fact come up with these bills and they get passed, probably wouldn't see those go into effect until maybe spring of next year, but in reality, that could be right around the corner. So this is something we're going to want to pay close attention to. We're going to want to make sure that we're in contact with our state legislatures, both at the Senate and at the House of Representatives side, because we want to make sure that we give them our input. If they're going to go change the medical marijuana law, the people that they should be listening to most are the people that are affected by it, the people that are in the program. And so that's where we need you to step in. That's where we need you to make your voice heard. And hopefully we'll give you every opportunity to do so. We'll keep you informed of what's going on. Like I said, there's a couple bills. They're kind of regenerated ones that are being recirculated. So we've talked about these on the program before. There's those same dispensary edible bills that we've been talking about. Look to see those be tweaked here in the future. I can't tell you what those changes are going to look like now at this point, but I do know that there's a lot of big money interests that are interested in getting a hold and getting their digs in, if you will, on our law. And while I certainly am not a opponent to progression, I do believe that it needs to be retained for the common man as well as for the rich guys. So that's just my own take. But at any rate, I'll keep you informed. I'll let you know what's going to be happening. Any changes coming up, anything that gets proposed, you can guarantee you're going to catch it right here on the Genesee County Compassion Club show. All right, with that being said, I want to go on and talk about what's happening in the rest of the country, keep you informed. Some of the stuff I'm going to cover today is talking about recreational marijuana. Some of it's just medical marijuana. So I'll differentiate, let you know which ones we're talking about. First off, though, I want to go on to the original medical marijuana state, which is California. For those of you that don't know, they've had medical marijuana in California since like 1996. So they've had it for quite some time. They've had a couple different runs for adult use or for recreational use that were unsuccessful bids in the past, and the votes were not enough, or the measures got turned down, didn't get enough signatures, you name it. They've been through the ringer out there in California. And just recently, California collected enough signatures to get a pot legalization on the ballot. So in November, California residents will be voting on whether or not to legalize marijuana for adult recreational use for those people 21 years of age and older, and they'll get to vote yes or no. So kind of similar to what you've seen in Colorado, Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Washington, D.C. These places already have legal marijuana that is available for adult recreational use, and California is going to be one of the next ones to vote on it. So this is the second time now that Californian voters have had the opportunity to look at adult legal recreational use. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Some of the reasoning, at least that was rumored behind why the last initiative failed, was confusion. A lot of folks felt like, well, the industry that's already existed will be cut out and not allowed to participate. So they didn't have a lot of support from the medical marijuana industry. Some people felt like the process was going to be confusing, like it wasn't very well laid out. So a lot of folks were hesitant. People that were opponents to marijuana in general felt like, oh, this looks bad. It looks like some kind of a crazy free-for-all. We don't want that. So this is a different proposal than what was proposed back in 2012. It's by a different group of people, I do believe, and obviously has a different set of rules. So this will be interesting to see how this goes. You would think with California having medical marijuana available now for over 20 years, and with California being a fairly progressive state, at least that's how we think of it here in the Midwest, you'd think that this is going to pass slam dunk. The polls are showing that they do have the favor to get this passed. Time will tell. So at least let me read some of this article. You can go to rollingstone.com and check out, they have an article posted there about the initiative and about what's going on. Read through that and check that out. I'm going to read just a couple clips to you, let you know what they've been saying. Some of the interesting points behind this, and I'll just get right to the article. It says 1 in 10 Americans live in California. 1 in 10. Los Angeles Basin alone is home to more people than Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Alaska combined. So obviously there's a lot of people that live in California, and when California passes this, or if they do pass this, it's obviously going to be a big tipping point for marijuana in general. I mean, when they passed it initially for medical marijuana in 1996, it was a groundbreaker, and people around the country felt the effects of that and are still feeling the effects of that today. So even though we already have 4 or 5 areas in the United States that allow legal adult use, and they've certainly cracked it open, Colorado no doubt beat just about all of them to it. Even that all being said, when California passes, whether it be this time or the next time or whenever, it's going to be a big domino. There's just no question about it. And so it'll be interesting to see what the effects are of that and how it plays out across the rest of the country. So I'm interested to see. I hope this goes through for them. I know that it will provide, if nothing else, it will provide additional protections for the medical patients in California who are using this for medicinal purposes. And I think that's the most important part of adult legal recreational use, is because once that nut is cracked or once that egg's broken and there is protection for just regular everyday use, then I think they will truly stop leaving or start leaving medical patients alone. People, the mindset will change. And I think that you'll have people out there who will openly admit to using it for recreational purposes, and you're going to have other folks out there who are going to hold to the creed that, no, I absolutely use this for medicinal purposes. I couldn't function without it. I don't want the alternatives, and I don't want to have my life changed by not having this in it. So I think that additional protections for patients is the most important thing out there. And if this does it, then I'm all for it. So at any rate, let's see here. It says 21 and older. I think that's kind of like a basic, standard for most adult recreational use policies that we're seeing get proposed now. It says a measure also would impose a 15% retail tax on cannabis, and they project it to generate up to $1 billion in revenue, as well as $100 million annual savings to fund public university research on legalization, DUI protocols, medical cannabis research, and support for communities most devastated by the drug war. So it's kind of interesting. It says also, in addition to that, all the other additional proceeds that would be left over from the generation of these sales would go to environmental cleanup from illegal grows, law enforcement, and youth drug prevention, treatment, and education programs. So you can see how the revenue from the taxes that would be placed on this use would certainly help bring a positive aspect and a positive influence into the communities through a whole myriad of different ways, and they're really trying to specify how it will go and be played out. So I like the fact that they've got certain things allocated in here. I think that the public, even those folks that are still opposed to cannabis use in general, could look at this type of thing and say, well, I don't like the substance, I don't like the people use it, but I see how we can use it positively to benefit our community. And bottom line is, folks are going to be doing it anyway, so we might as well collect tax, we might as well regulate it, and we might as well utilize it rather than just having it sit there and continue to be a problem, which I think would be the most logical reasoning to go with. However, I obviously don't speak for everyone. So at any rate, that's what's up with California. I wish them the best luck in November, and we'll see what happens. Moving on, next state that we're going to see voting on legal adult use in November is Massachusetts. Just recently, their Supreme Judicial Court announced, actually today I do believe, that they will allow the ballot to be pushed forward, to be placed on, allow the initiative to be placed on the ballot. So they think that the language that they used is fine. They had to clarify it a little bit, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line, Massachusetts constituents there, people in Massachusetts are going to have a chance to vote on adult legal marijuana in November. So we'll see what happens. They've also had medical marijuana there for quite some time. They've had a pretty strong decriminalization policy going on in Massachusetts as well. And then this would be some additional icing on the cake, if you will, as far as protections go for marijuana consumers. So this is kind of interesting. I'll read the article to you. You can go to boston.com, check it out for yourself. The court ruled yes. Also, it said that marijuana products would also be included. And let me forward here. It says persons 21 and older, blah, blah, blah. And that's basically about it. I mean, you can read the whole doggone thing if you want to, but I'm not going to read their initiative to you. But basically, the judge passed it. And, that's one of those things that we've seen here in Michigan, where you have this language that's drawn up. People are going to be voting on it, yay or nay. Somebody's got to approve that language to make sure it's clear, concise, and that it's portraying actuality of what it is that they're actually trying to do. And you would think that that wouldn't be a problem, but believe me, it is. So, at any rate, they cleared it in Massachusetts. Supreme Court judge said, yepper, and now it's going to be on the ballot. So, go Massachusetts. Be one of the states potentially to add on to the list. All right. Now, moving on to a state that already legalized it, we're talking about Colorado now. This is kind of interesting. So even after they've already passed the law, the program has been a success, overall success. I think it'd be hard to argue against that. There's still folks in Colorado that are vehemently opposed to marijuana use in general. They don't want to see it. And so they're trying to do everything that they can to take away from the program that currently exists. We've got the issue going on in Colorado Springs with cannabis clubs and also in Denver as well, where they're trying to eliminate their existence. Folks, think about it. If you've got adult recreational use going on, then you need to be able to have a place where people can do so other than their own home. And Colorado law specifies that you can't use cannabis in public, so you need to have a place to be able to go to. This is just a natural progression, and I think it's something that we have to take into account. If we look at this here in Colorado, besides that point, they're trying to also propose an initiative to limit the amounts of THC available in cannabis products. So whether it be a flower or an edible form or some type of concentrate, they're trying to limit the amount of THC that would be available in that product. I guess they feel like if it's over a certain percentage, it becomes too dangerous, which of course is just completely preposterous. We all know that cannabis has no legal known overdose rate, so there's really no reason or no logical reason to propose this. However, it's being proposed. So it says here, the article states, this is from marijuana.com, you can check it out yourself. It says, while most of winning in the states have been voter initiatives, Colorado supports 55%, so clearly they've got the percent going on of support. But the latest amendment is Amendment 139, where opponents to legalization have begun circulating petitions to qualify a voter initiative for the ballot that would significantly limit the choice and quality of marijuana products available in the state. The proposal is being proposed by a group calling itself the Healthy Colorado Coalition. Obviously, it's people that don't like marijuana. They first tried to convince the state legislature to impose potency limits. After that effort failed, now they're going on to try to collect signatures to get something on their ballot to do so. It says here, they are trying to amend their state constitution to limit the potency of cannabis to 16%. It says currently the state average of Colorado pot products is 17.1 and 62.1 for extracts. So it gives you an idea of what patients are currently used to, and they want to limit it below the even average amount. Pretty preposterous. It says here, if passed by voters, it would eliminate nearly 80% of the products on the shelves today. So, I think it's preposterous. These folks have no valid reason to even propose this kind of language. There's no science based behind this. There's nothing that says, okay, well, if you have cannabis that's 16% and you have something that's 20%, the 20 is just too strong. Even with alcohol, where we're talking about a substance that's deadly, that could actually kill you, folks are allowed to choose their different levels of potency, and the average consumer has been able to figure that out. They know that if they drink hard liquor, they're not going to be able to drink as much as if they're having, say, a glass of wine or beer. It's pretty common sense. And obviously to a new user, you got maybe a young person who's now turned 21, whatever, they figure it out pretty quickly. Cannabis, which is not deadly and nothing like alcohol, you would think you'd be able to do the same thing, which you obviously can, but these folks feel that that's not possible. So, I don't know. I mean, it just goes to show you, folks, that even in Colorado, where they have this adult legal thing going on, the market's blowing up, whatever, everybody's smoking pot, right? Everybody's not smoking pot. In fact, the Colorado usage percentages, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, are really not that much higher than anywhere else in the country. Slightly higher, but I mean 1 or 2 percentage points. So these fears that these people are portraying are really unfounded. And I think it's just, like I said, it's a testimony to tell you that even when you got it all done, you think you're in the clear, there's still going to be folks coming back around and saying, we need to limit it. We need to put that away. It's terrible stuff. So, I mean, you could imagine the abolitionists back in the 1920s and 30s, what they were saying about alcohol. You can only put that in perspective. All right, so let me talk a little bit about usages. All right, let's see if I can find this article again. This was, here it is. Had to pull up my email. It's in the wrong category. Okay, so this is from alternate.org. You can check it out. but this is the top 10 marijuana using states. And of course, on the list at the top is Colorado. So like I said, they are a little bit higher than the rest of the nation, but it's not that much. And I know a lot of folks think, well, when you pass recreational marijuana, then everybody's going to be walking around stoned. That's not the case at all. And folks, not everybody walks around stoned. That's a myth, okay? Here's the facts. 21.6% in Colorado are saying that they have consumed recently, all right? And that's the highest in the country. Just 21.6% of the population apparently is smoking down in Colorado. So 21%, okay? It's not a majority, not by any means. Oregon, number 2 state on the list, 19.9. So like I said, there's not a big difference between the two states there. Colorado is leading, but not by much.
No, does it ask does it answer in that book, in that report there, where they gathered their information at, though? So I mean, that could skew the, if they were asking at care centers or dispensaries. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't think they were asking outside of college dorm rooms. Okay. And it doesn't give us the information, but John brings up a good point. Who are you polling? Are you polling a bunch of senior citizens, or are you getting a bunch of college kids? Obviously, you're going to get a different ratio depending on who you ask. This doesn't get into that, so unfortunately, I don't have that kind of info. But let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that these numbers are somewhat accurate, or at least reflective of an accurate picture. And I think that this would, I got to agree, I think this would make sense. And this is by percentage, not by population number. So, even a state like Alaska, where obviously they don't have a lot of people living there, their percentage is 19.5%, actually comes in at a tie with the state of Washington, also at 19.5%. So these states here are both listed number 4 on the list, obviously not that far away from Colorado, who's at 21.6. I mentioned Oregon, who's at 19.9. Number 3 on the list doesn't even have recreational marijuana, and that's Vermont at 19.8%. So, right there in the top 5, you've got 4 places that have legal adult use, 1 doesn't, and they're all within just like 2 or 3 percentage points. So I think it just goes to show you that if legalization is passed somewhere, it doesn't necessarily open up the floodgates and now everybody smokes weed. All it means is that the people who wanted it can get it legally. And that's it. Along with the state collecting a whole lot of tax.
Well, how many people actually sit around? I mean, of course, I can't say this accurately because from my perception, everybody's a stoner, drunk, because around my neighborhood, everybody's walking around drinking. But, when you...
And in reality, that's not the case.
And that's probably not the case. But, like I said, you extrapolate that to marijuana. Okay, how many people are going to be using it at any given point? Well, I think it's probably, overall, the population, I think it's probably 6 or 8%. When you narrow it down the field, then you say those numbers are going to go up higher.
Yeah, within a certain time frame.
Right. Everybody, I guess everybody else in the, here in the Flint, Genesee County area is now driving around drunk, or would have more accidents. Yeah. So I'm just saying it's the same thing. Alcohol has been legalized for years, and it's kind of tapered off. The use of it, that you can see the sales of it's diminished.
Yeah.
And basically, I think even people who are totally opposed to legalization because they think it's like a moral crisis it's going to create, I think they'd have to actually back up a little bit and be a little bit more rational about it. It's like...
I think you're right, John. Yeah. I think this is proof of that. I think a lot of folks do think that if we're just going to, have a moral degradation of society, we're going to have, way more drug addicts, so on and so forth. And that's just paranoia. There's no sound-based facts to show that that's actually been happening. And in reality, actually, we've got statistical information to say that it's been the opposite. That, you look in Colorado and the marijuana use among teens has actually gone down since they've passed their law. And why is that? It's because of education. It's because of the children are receiving knowledge about what this is for real versus what we were told back in the 80s during the Say No to Drugs campaign, which was a big joke. And I think that, in order to have a sound decision-making individual, a young person, they need to have accurate information, because if they're just told a bunch of lies, then they're easily steered wrong because they don't know where to turn at that point. And that's what we've seen with the drug war. So getting back to the list here, I want to point out a few other states. We're going with the top 10 marijuana use states in the country. Most of these are either on the East Coast or on the West Coast, as you can tell so far. Next one on the list is Maine, which is at 19.4%. And let me point out, Washington, I just listed them. They were at number 4. It's only 19.5%. So literally 0.1% difference in use amongst these people. And Washington has recreational marijuana available, has medical marijuana available. Maine has medical marijuana available, but does not have recreational. So there's very little difference in the usage. The difference is that people aren't going to jail anymore and people are paying tax. That's the difference. Let's move on. Rhode Island, 18.7. Massachusetts, 17.6. New Hampshire, 17.1. And here we go. Michigan actually made the list at 17.1. Michigan is also the only state in the Midwest to make this list. And obviously it's because of our medical marijuana law here in Michigan, which was passed in 2008. So, however, average use across the country is right in these numbers as well. And obviously with the top one being Colorado at 21% and everybody else being down from there, it just goes to show you that even though marijuana may be becoming more mainstream, it's not necessarily being used more in society. You're just seeing it more because people are finally coming out of the closet. They're not scared. They can actually use this effectively and efficiently, especially for medical marijuana states, and they can have a little bit of self-esteem doing so and saying, hey, look, I'm taking care of myself. I took my health into my own hands, and I want something different than these prescriptions that are killing me, and I want better relief than what I'm currently getting. And so I went out, I sought it out, and I got it, and it's working. And that testimony right there is what is helping marijuana spread to people who aren't aware of it. But as far as people using it for recreational purposes, you've got all the propaganda you need on your evening TV news and television shows for recreational use. They've been there for 30 years plus. And the fact of the matter is that people who are going to misuse things are going to misuse them no matter what it is. And you can have it be that way whether it's being prohibited or not. And give me an example. Back in the day when they had prohibition and alcohol was illegal, you had folks making alcoholic substances out of shoe polish. I mean, that was a common known fact. So obviously that's a lot more dangerous than someone going and making their own home brew. And that's what we have to deal with as a society. We need to quit dealing with our drug problem as a society in a criminal manner and start focusing it on a public health issue. Because that's what it is. It's a public health issue. It's something that people need help with. And they don't get help by being thrown in jail and having their assets taken away. They actually get stuck further down in a rut, which oftentimes leads them right back to the place that got them in that trouble in the first place. And that's what we don't need.
Play devil's advocate. Say marijuana does become more popular, more widely used. Okay, alcohol has got serious, detrimental health effects, after a prolonged use especially. And people, when they drink and drive, I would say are more sloppy. And the expression of a sloppy drunk is pretty fitting. So even if they were using it, I think there'd be much more, I don't think there'd be as wildly hard to deal with, if you actually had to confront them, or they would be that bizarre in behavior or just pass out, sleep, going to sleep. Like I've seen people just collapse because they're drunk so much they collapse over the steering wheel because they're so hammered. I don't see that happening with marijuana. I've been around marijuana since I was in grade school, and I'm 53 now. I've never seen somebody pass out because they're just collapse and just over driving like they do during drinking. No. So you got to look at the effects. They're not all drugs are created the same. And that's like a piece of, some people want to put them in the same category, and I did for years too, but you got to really examine it, the effects of it.
And I think that's the hysteria, the paranoia, the propaganda that has been placed on cannabis and marijuana use in general for the last 70 years, mainly by your government, telling you that, if you use this substance, you could hallucinate, you could become schizophrenic, turn into a racist individual, have outbursts and, just preposterous things that are truly the exact opposite of the effects of cannabis. And, people still believe those lies. And unfortunately, that's what propels a lot of this type of legislation to be placed. People who don't have any real understanding of the substance or its effects on an individual are still being heard on a legislative level. And unfortunately, until we can squash that with facts, with statistics, with surveys, with real hardcore information, whatever it takes to prove to these individuals that their information is incorrect, that's what we need to have. And it is happening, but it's a slow process. It takes time to change people's minds and their hearts, if you will. So, but John, he's an example of that. You can see through experience the effects that cannabis has on people and compare them to the other substances that are legally available. And you can make a pretty clear distinction on which one is safer for the rest of society and also safer for the individual, for that matter. It's not hard to find. So, all right, I want to move on here. I got one more state I want to cover before we wrap up the show, and that is our state to the south of us, good old Ohio. I don't know why I said good old. I'm not really a fan of Ohio. I don't like Ohio. Ohio sucks. But that being said, I still love the people there, and we just won't talk about football. Let's talk about marijuana. Marijuana in Ohio has been a mess. They've tried to pass medical marijuana countless times. They tried to do a legalization ballot, didn't work. And so now their legislature is really getting involved. They've passed a medical marijuana program, a small portion of a program, if you will, and they're trying to get it implemented. So this article I've got for you is from Fortune magazine. You can go to fortune.com, check it out for yourself. I want to share the article with you because I want you to see what's happening in Ohio, and hopefully it will give you all a little bit of motivation to protect the program that you have here in Michigan. Okay, so let's talk about Ohio. It says here in the article, first line says it could take 2 years to open dispensaries. If you're an Ohioan and in need of medical marijuana, don't expect to get the drug as soon as it becomes legal in September. Because it's going to take a while for the program to get up and running, basically. So their governor, John Kasich, former presidential candidate, signed the bill legalizing marijuana for medical purposes in Ohio in June. But here the article is saying it won't be at dispensaries anytime soon. So it says it takes the law 90 days to be in effect. There are a number of steps that first need to be taken in order for the state to set up the medical marijuana program. It's expected to be fully functional in about 2 years. So we'll have to see how this plays out for Ohioans. But I can tell you, to the person right now that's suffering from cancer or AIDS or MS or is having seizures every day, 2 years is too freaking long, okay? Obviously. So I find that a little bit disheartening, but that's what it is. It says here, State Senator Kenny Yuko, who's been working for more than a decade to legalize medical marijuana, says the state needs to get moving soon on the rules for who can get the drug, where they can get it from. So these things have not yet been played out yet in Ohio, and I know that the article mentions the establishment of dispensaries, but those have not yet been defined by Ohio, nor have they been licensed or set up or anything like that. This is a state-run program that the state decided to pass on their own, so they will decide who has access, where they have access, how it's created, who's transporting it, how the sale of it's going to happen. The state is going to control every step of this for Ohioans. And from what I have been told, it is a very limited list of qualifying conditions, and it is going to be very difficult to be able to get a recommendation for medical marijuana. There's also going to be a very restrictive list of physicians who are able to make that recommendation. So this is a very streamlined program of medical marijuana. There's mentions of things like patients and caregivers and so on in the article, but again, these have not yet been set up by the state, so there's no guarantee that those things will actually even exist. And if you doubt it, you can go look at New Jersey's program right now, who is obviously governed by Chris Christie. New Jersey passed medical marijuana a couple years ago, but the patients there still do not have medical marijuana due to the fact that the state is taking their sweet time and putting the program together. In other words, it's just not getting done. And when you have a sitting governor like Chris Christie, who is vehemently opposed to marijuana, you can bet that there's no rush, there's no sense of urgency being placed on the state's departments to come up with these programs. And when they are actually enacted, you can bet that they're going to be very small, very streamlined, very controlled, and most likely owned by whoever is the best friend of who's ever in charge. So that's not the kind of program we want to see. That's not the kind of program that provides accessible access to patients, and it certainly doesn't spawn any type of economic activity in these states. And I'm sure Ohio is not much different than us being in the Midwest. We all could use a boost on Main Street. There's just no doubt about it. So let's see here. Back to the article, it says first thing that they need to concentrate on is formulating the growing rules so we know who exactly is able to be growing, how much you can grow, what your expectations are, what the costs are going to be, blah, blah, blah. Senator Yuko also explained that the state needs to set up an identification process for patients and caregivers, and then make sure they get some dispensaries up and running. So it sounds like Senator Yuko is a pretty positive thinking person, a leader in this legislation, and hopefully someone that's truly looking out for Ohio patients. So hopefully they can get the access it is that they need. But again, 2 years? Come on. It took Michigan 120 days to get their program up and running. Granted, it was forced on them by law, which is a good thing. And unfortunately, Ohio doesn't have that benefit. So, folks, if you're in Michigan and you think our program's tough, you need to take a look at what's happening to your neighbors in the South. One thing you do need to know, Ohio and Michigan are not reciprocal. So even though they pass this law, even though it's going to go into effect in September, it is not going to be okay for Michigan caregivers and patients to be taking their meds down to their patients and caregivers in Ohio. We are not a reciprocal state. So don't think that that's going to be an option. Don't do it. It's completely illegal, and you could be liable for a federal felony because you're crossing state lines in addition to state felonies in Ohio and Michigan as well. So it could be a real mess for you. A lot of folks ask that, hey, what happens when these other states start to get programs up and running? Are we going to be able to utilize that? And the answer right now is absolutely not, no way, no how. So keep yourself safe, stick with working with your patients and your caregivers, and you're going to be safe, okay? And I know you might get a phone call from a buddy in Ohio. It happens. Don't do it. All right? Okay, so that's what's happening around the country. Obviously, we got some forward progression moving in marijuana, and I don't think this is going to stop. I mean, the snowball is forming, it's rolling, and even though it's hot right now in Michigan, it's still rolling, and it's just not going to stop. So what we need to do is get our hands around it, get involved, and make sure that in the end, it's something that we can all work with and not just carved out for a couple people at the top of the food chain. So, all right, don't forget about our upcoming events down at the Genesee County Compassion Club. Like I said, make sure you mark your calendar for 7-11. We'd love to see you down there having a good time. Also love to see you out at the Adopt a Highway. Take a dip in the river if that's your thing. And come on out tonight to the softball game at Bicentennial Park in Grand Blanc for the G3C hitters. We'll be playing here at 6:10. So, all right, wish us luck. Thanks for being here in the show. John, thanks for having me back at allpointstv.com. Make sure you check out all the other podcasts at allpointstv.com. They've got information from around the area, covers all different types of topics, and it's the best way to get real news right here. All right, thanks for joining me this week on the Genesee County Compassion Club show. I'm your host, Jeremy. Have a fantastic week.